everyone talks about student loans in the government and how bad they are and how they're keeping the average person from building wealth. But what you got to remember, which is why I always say you want to become financially educated so you don't have to rely on somebody else, whether it's your parents or the government.
Yes.
It's because student loans are the number one asset on the United States balance sheet.
Really?
It is their number one asset, which means it is a huge tool that the government has to continue spending money the way that they want.
Really?
And
how much money, or how much student loan debt is there currently and every year when new students enroll in school?
Well,
do we know that statistic?
Well, I don't know off the top of my head how many dollars of student loans are out there. But what you should understand is how much money the government is spending. Because the government is about to reach $35 trillion at the time of this recording in national debt.
Wow.
And this is where everyone says, well, where's the government spending so much money? Because the reason we have all this national debt is because the government keeps spending money they don't have. How does the government make money? Through taxes. And, well, if they keep spending money they don't have, $35 trillion that they don't have, where does all that money go? And the reason why I say this today, the reason why it's so important to understand this today is if you look at the three largest expenses for the government, they might not be what you think. Number one is Social Security. Number two is healthcare. Number three is interest payments. It's not the military. It's not firefighters. It's not police. It's not infrastructure, bridges, and building public transit. It's interest payments. The third largest expense that the United States government has in 2024 is interest. And for the first time in the history of American history, the government is paying more money to pay off the interest than they are on our military or defense.
Oh, how much interest is America paying on a monthly basis? Do we know?
We have $35 trillion of debt. And the reason why this is important to calculate this is because, number one, we are increasing our national debt at still some of the fastest rates we have ever seen, but we're also paying significantly higher interest rates than we have seen in more than 2 decades. So not only is the amount of dollars we have borrowed going up, but the interest that we pay on those dollars is going up, and the government doesn't have a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. It's adjustable rates because the government then sees their debt readjust every 12 months, every 24 months, every 36 months. I mean, more and more debt is readjusting every year, which means more and more debt is now being paid out at the higher interest rates.
Where was our national debt a year ago? Do you remember?
We were around the 30 trillion, if I had to guess. I mean, I don't know
$5
exactly.
trillion roughly.
No, it wasn't that much, but it is growing very quickly.
What will happen to America and the world when our national debt gets to 50 trillion or 100 trillion and beyond?
Well, I think the better question here to answer the same point is, why is national debt an issue? Why is the spending an issue? Mm-hmm. And it goes back to the topic of taxes, because if the government can just spend money they don't have, why do they tax you in the first place? Why do we have to pay taxes if they're going to continue just spending trillions of dollars that they don't have? Because I think the national deficit last year was about $1.5 trillion. This year it's about $1.5 trillion. Next year is projected to be a little bit more. So the national debt is growing by around $1.5 trillion or so a year.
That's not including the interest that we're paying.
That's not including the interest. And so now, if they're spending all this money, like if they generate $5 trillion in tax revenue, but then they spend $6.5 trillion, why even collect the $5 trillion? Why not just spend $6.5 trillion? And the reason why is because, well, taxes are a way for the government to continue furthering some of their goals and agendas and operations. Now, I don't say this from a conspiracy point of view, but the thing I want you to understand here is when the government spends money they don't have, you're still taxed on it. You're just not taxed the way that you think you might be taxed. Because if the government wanted to go out and build a bridge that costs $1 million, they can go out and levy a tax, collect $1 million from wealthy people making over $10 million a year, take that money and go out and build a bridge. But that's not what they end up doing many times, because the alternative is, instead of going through Congress and getting votes, how about we just spend the money and we borrow the money to do it? And so now when you do that, well, now the bridge still gets built, but no one really knows where the money came from. Then you have to ask, where did they borrow this money from? Well, what we've seen is that a lot of this borrowing has been from the Federal Reserve Bank. Now, anybody can go and lend money to the government. You can do it. I can do it. Anybody listening or watching to this can do it. It's by going out and buying a treasury note, a treasury bond. When you do that, you're lending money to the United States government and you get a return for doing that. You get an interest payment. Well, when the government is borrowing trillions and trillions of dollars, you don't have enough people to give the government that much money. There's not that much money available interested in lending to the government, which is why they then turn to the Federal Reserve Bank. And the Federal Reserve Bank, while they're called the Federal Reserve Bank, it's not federal. They say so on their website. They're not a reserve. They don't sit on cash reserves, and they're not a bank. You and I can't go there to deposit money. So they have a special power which allows them to essentially create this money and then lend it to the United States government. So now the government wants to spend $1 trillion or $1.5 trillion that they don't have. They call up the Federal Reserve Bank, who then prints this money, gives it to the government. They get this money, and then they inject it into the economy. They can go out and hire contractors and construction companies, and they can give this money to whoever, which stimulates the economy because now you get a job, you get a paycheck, you're getting money, but then everybody else is paying for it because now it's not coming from this particular tax, right? If I taxed you, your money is going to pay for the bridge. But if I'm not taxing you to pay for it, then everybody's paying for it.
Right.
And this is that hidden tax called inflation. And now we've been really paying the price for this. And the thing about this hidden tax is it is disproportionately felt by the financially uneducated and the poor versus the financially educated and the wealthy benefit, because when inflation happens, guess what? The stock market goes up, real estate values go up, my rental properties values go up, rental prices go up for the landlords. And so it benefits the financially educated while hurting everybody else. If you look at the last, from 2019 to 2024, the reported inflation numbers are around 22%. Wage growth is around 20%, maybe 21% in that range. We're not completely sure because we don't know what 2024 wage growth exactly is. But at the same time, the S&P 500 has grown by around 80%.
Really?
So that means for investors, your wealth grew significantly faster than the average person who's not an investor, because the average person's incomes barely kept up with inflation, if at all.
Wow.
Because for a lot of Americans, the regular person, your incomes did not keep up with inflation. But if you're investing your money, you saw this windfall, which is why we've been seeing this bigger divide, right? The rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and the middle class has been shrinking because most people don't understand money. They don't know how to use their money. They don't understand what inflation is. They don't understand how the system works. The system is designed to produce inflation. And you're going to say, well, how do you know that? The Federal Reserve Bank says this. They publish this all the time. They say that we want a 2% inflation target.
Why?
Why not 1%? But why not 0%? Why do we want inflation in the first place? If you're enjoying this video and want to take your investing to the next level, I want to remind you that I put together a free investing masterclass where I walk you through how you can get started as an investor and find hidden investment opportunities before everybody else. It's a completely free masterclass, and when you register, you'll also get access to Market Briefs, which is my newsletter for investors, completely free, complimentary as a bonus. So if you want to get the investing masterclass and Market Briefs all for free, all you have to do is click the link down in the description below to get it. Because that's the way our economic system works. Our economic system runs on spending, and inflation increases the monetary supply, right? It increases the amount of dollars out there. That means the government has more money to spend. If the government has more money to spend, they can continue spending money and giving people jobs, right? If they go out and give a contract to greatness so you can produce some content, well, you can go out and hire some people to go out and do things. But the question is, how are they paying for that? Because if I'm paying you to do that, I have to make a profit, or I have to generate revenue from my business, right, to go out and write you this check. The government can just levy a tax, or they can just get the money printed, which is a whole lot easier. And so then one of these things can create more inflation in that sense. And that's why, again, our system is this way. We talk about why is financial education so important? Because it is designed to benefit the financially educated. It's designed to benefit investors. And anybody can be an investor, but we're never taught to be investors. We're taught to go to school, to get a job and spend our money. We're never taught what to do with that money. We're never taught to start a business. And we're never taught how to take this money that we're earning and convert it into wealth. We're taught to turn this money into cars and clothes,
flashy things,
and vacations.
Yeah. So would you say then that the government is designed to keep people poor unless they're willing to invest in financial literacy and education and make the right choices to get them into creating more wealth?
Our economic system is designed to keep people poor. The government continues to spend money, which creates inflation, which keeps people poor. And this is where now, in order for you to break out of that system, you have to, number one, learn the system. Number two, believe you can do it. Number three, do something about it.
Yes.
And do something about it means you got to stop spending all of our money, which is uncomfortable, right? Because we want to have the nice things. But I'm not saying don't ever have a nice thing again. Don't ever go to, Starbucks or go to Gucci. No, what I'm saying is go through the decade of sacrifice, of spending less, earning more. It's tough financially, but that's going to give you some more money. Now, when you take this money, you're going to start investing it. You're going to be very disappointed in the first couple of years because you see no returns. You don't see anything happening, but you got to stick with it.
Yes.
And you keep doing it. You build your financial education, you learn more about how to invest. You start studying the financial trends. You keep building the financial preparedness. Maybe you see a market downturn that creates more opportunities for you to invest, but you just stick with it. Then what's going to end up happening? You go through the decade of sacrifice. Because now you turn around and you don't recognize the person that you were 10 years ago. You won't even recognize yourself 3 years ago. But this is where now you will start to build this real wealth fund for yourself. And now you can start spending more money, but it's not necessarily coming out of your paycheck. You can start having nice things. You don't have to worry about the price because the money is being funded by your investments. And that's why now understanding the system is designed to keep the majority of people broke. And the reason why is because they want you to spend all of your money. And they want you to spend money you don't have, because that means you get to spend more money, right? If I make 50 grand a year, I only have $50,000 worth of buying power, you would think. But no, you have more because of credit. We live in a credit-based economy. So if I can only spend $50,000, I mean, I can only stimulate the economy by $50,000. And that's where this clever financial strategizing came in and said, well, how do we get somebody making $50,000 a year to stimulate the economy by $80,000 a year? Credit cards, lines of credit, other forms of debt. So that way now, what is debt? You're taking next year's income, spending it today, and then you pay it back next year plus interest. So now you're working just to make everybody else rich. You're working to make your bank rich. You're working to make Gucci rich. You're working to make everybody else rich except yourself. And this is where that's what the system is designed to do. But if you want to build wealth, you got to, number one, learn and stop spending all of your money.
Who should be most afraid? People that are making under $100,000, people that are making it from $100,000 to $500,000 a year, or people that are making $500,000 to $1 million a year over the next few years with the elections, the economy, wars, inflation. Who is at the biggest risk financially?
Well, I think it's everybody. I wouldn't say one over the other. It depends on the percentage of money you're keeping for yourself versus spending. Because if you make $1 million a year and you're spending 110% of your money a year, but you're making 50 versus somebody else is making 50 grand, I'm living off of 75,000. I'm more worried about the $1 million a year person because you are one bad step away from bankruptcy. Versus if you're making 50 grand a year, but you're smart with your money, which I've met a lot of people doing that, you're ready for whatever happens. And you said, bring it on, because I'm going to find the opportunity. It's a very different mindset.
And you're not living in, you're not living out of your means. So you've figured out how to have a comfortable lifestyle, a lifestyle that suits you, that aligns with your financial income, and you're not choosing to overspend.
Right.
And I've met a lot of people who have, who rent, who have great relationships, who have good family ties and community, that are able to use their time without having to spend money to have fun.
Yeah.
To enjoy their life.
Yeah.
Beyond, obviously, you got to buy food and you got to pay rent and bills and expenses, but they don't need to overspend. They can go in nature. They can go on walks. They can be with their dog or their friends or family and do things and activities that stimulate more fulfillment and joy than spending on watches and clothes.
My wife grew up with a very tough financial upbringing. And when we got married, she, always expressed that she she'd always wanted, a designer purse or some other things like that. And so she went out, and I wanted to make sure she had whatever she wanted. So she got, the designer purses and all that nice stuff. And then pretty quickly she realizes, okay, this doesn't really give me much fulfillment.
Now what? Yeah.
Now what? I can buy my purses, but it doesn't, the attraction to these things are the highest when you can't afford them. When you can comfortably afford it, you no longer really crave that stuff. Now you realize, well, what's something bigger? What's going to really give me that fulfillment? What is going to give me those memories? And it really goes back to what you were just saying, which is a mindset shift. Because everyone says, oh, it's going to suck living smaller. It's going to suck doing this. Well, it doesn't have to. I'm sure when you were starting your business, you were working hard, but you were probably having the time of your life.
It was a thrill.
It's
I mean, there's ups and downs.
There's ups and downs, but it's when I was first getting started, when I started my party promotion business, I knew nothing about anything. I was a naive 17-year-old kid. I was really, financially dumb, but I knew I wanted to start building some income and start doing more things in my money. And I had 2 other guy friends that were doing this with me. They were kind of like partners that we worked hard with. And we were working around the clock, but we were having the time of our lives. It was tough. We were working hard, but we were having so much fun. We were laughing so much because we were just having fun. And it's really like...
Could be exciting too. Oh, this new adventure. Yeah.
And it's really that mind. Again,
people also need perspective. I think you gain a mindset when you experience a perspective that wakes you up. We were just talking about, Indian culture. I've been to India. I've been to Guatemala 5 times. I go to Mexico all the time. Even in, wealthy areas of Mexico. The thing that breaks my heart the most and gives me a lot of perspective and a lot of appreciation for my life is when I see 7-year-old girls walking in the street, 9-year-old boys, 4-year-old girls walking by themselves with little candies, working all day and all night to survive that day. Because their parents don't have money and their parents are out working as well, selling whatever they can sell. And you see a girl trying to get 20 pesos for a little piece of gum or something, or a little candy. And that is her life. Every day. She's walking the streets in Mexico or Guatemala or India or whatever it might be to survive that day. And it puts your mindset in perspective.
Yeah.
When you're eating at a nice restaurant, or you're getting your cup of coffee and you're spending $8 for coffee, and you see a child working 12 hours a day because she needs to support the parents to live that day. It puts your life in perspective. It makes you realize, oh, okay, maybe I can be more fulfilled with what I have. Maybe I can make some different choices. Maybe I can appreciate where I'm working right now, or I can appreciate what I've created for myself far. Maybe I don't have to be so jealous of everyone else around me of what they're buying and consuming or where they're going on their trips. I can value my life in a different way. And I think perspective like that wakes you up in a big way.
It's a cultural shift too.
Yes.
It's when you grow up in a country like America where resources are plentiful, it's hard to sometimes see them because in other countries, they're not always there. And people, unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize that when you're in a country like America, like if you can understand the words that I'm saying, you have the opportunities to build wealth. You have the opportunities to do whatever you want, where you might not get those opportunities in other parts of the world. And when you have so much, we'll call it privilege, of being able to speak English, of being able to be in a first world country, you start to then create victimizations of yourself, and you start to create these it's difficult for me because of X, Y, and Z, versus where other parts of the world, you might not have that privilege. And I have seen that, and it's the same in other parts of the world. My family's from a state in India called Punjab, and it can be difficult if the government doesn't allow you to do certain things, or if they're going to stop you from doing certain things.
Or it's corrupt. Certain companies are, cultures or economies or countries are very corrupt. Where the police are involved, the government are involved, all these different things. Again, I'm sure you've seen in, part of the country your family is from, kids in a similar state where they have a 0.0001% chance of building wealth.
It's much more difficult over there. And just really, I mean, I talked about this, I think, with you, but, my grandparents, when they were born in Punjab used to be a larger state. In 1947, the state of Punjab was severed. And so my grandparents, who are Sikhs, the religion that I'm is S-I-K-H, Sikh. If you're on the west side of Punjab, which is where my grandparents were, you had to migrate east or you'd be killed. And so, they lost everything, land, family, possessions, everything. My grandfather didn't even have shoes on his feet when he made it to the other side. And now you're starting, when we talk poverty, not even, the reason why I say this is because I had a discussion with somebody in Los Angeles on a podcast recently where he says, well, I don't think you need money to find any fulfillment in life. And I said, no, the only person that says I don't need money is people that have privilege or people who have money. Because the reality is when you really don't have money, then you start to really see how important money is.
Tough, man.
Because when my grandfather was there now, no shoes, no place to sleep, no money to eat. What do you do? And here's the other tricky part, right? Your culture plays a big part in this because in the Sikh religion,
yes,
there's a couple things I want to talk about, which I don't know I was going to talk about this, but we'll do it anyways.
Do it.
There's a tenet called seva, which translates to selfless service. You want to help others. And he would tell me that he would see hungry kids. It's like, I want to feed this person because that's, what the religion says. But I don't even have money to feed myself. I don't have food to give myself. How am I supposed to give to somebody else if I can't even take care of me? Now, the other part to this is there's another core tenet in our religion called kirat karo, which means earn a honest living. In the Sikh religion, it is against the religion to ask for a handout, to accept welfare, to ask for money that you didn't work hard to earn. So now, what do? You work and you have to find whatever opportunities you can, and it is difficult for you in that situation. And then, you start to grow and look for new opportunities in new ways. And then, again, in different parts of the world, it can be very difficult, especially, where you are. My parents, I remember my dad would tell me the story that in the 1980s in Punjab, there was a lot of political turmoil. People who were part of the Sikh religion were facing a lot of difficulties. And there was a lot of, there was killings, there was attacks. It was a very tough time. And trying to do anything in those types of political environments where sometimes you're worried, is this car going to be blown up on my way to work?
Yeah, there's war.
There's, what do you do? And then you leave or come to a new country where now you don't know the language, you don't know the culture, you don't know the people, and now you start.
You're looked at differently, you're judged,
You've already made the big risk, right? So this is where one of the things I like to talk about is think like an immigrant, in the sense that when an immigrant comes to a new country, they've already taken the risk, right? Where risk is,
they've left home.
I've left everything. And now I have opportunity, right? You do that for an opportunity. And this is where, again, it's the opportunity, which is understanding, number one, that opportunity is there. It's not, there's a difference between being hard and being impossible. It might be hard. It might be hard because of the cards you're dealt. It might be difficult because of the circumstances you've had. It might be difficult because of certain things that have happened in your life. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's impossible. And if you are in a first world country, it is possible. But number one, you got to believe. You got to believe. And there's a lot of negative people out there. Misery loves company. It is very easy to find, especially when you've been punched in the face, especially when you've been scammed, especially when you've been screwed over. But if you look at any successful person, they've gone through a lot of crap.
Yes.
And there's a saying that says, successful people have failed more times than most people have even tried. And it puts things in perspectives. And so now we talk about, what does that actually mean? Well, that might mean you try to get a job and you get rejected a lot of times. That might mean you try to start a business and you get screwed over. It might mean you lose money. It might mean you invest your money in the stock market and the company you buy goes bankrupt. That might mean you put your money somewhere and you lose it. I mean, I have had a lot of business screw-ups. I have lost a lot of money.
Didn't you lose a lot of money on your first housing investment too? Like you lost money and you lost the home, but you didn't stop trying to invest in real estate.
I made a lot of mistakes in real estate. See, I think I'm definitely not the smartest person, right? The reason why I say that is because a smart person will make a mistake and learn from that mistake. It takes me 3 tries.
It takes me years, man.
It takes me a lot of tries. And so that means it costs a lot of money.
Yeah, man.
But, I've had bad tenants, bad property managers, bad contractors. I've had a lot of tough things happen.